The clothing coupons never went far enough, and we used to save them really for emergencies. I mean, if you lost a child's shoe or something like that, they'd got to be replaced, and so you must have the coupons there ready. But when the war started, the shops, of course, were pretty full of things, but before many months had gone by, everything had become very, very scarce. Things had disappeared altogether, some of the things. We had to make do and mend. That was the order of the day. And everything that we'd got in the wardrobe was kept there. We never threw anything away. And I can remember when I was expecting my first baby, I was thinking about how I was going to get a christening gown for her. And I thought, well, there's my wedding dress. And I went and got the wedding dress out and looked at it, and I thought, oh no, I couldn't put scissors into that, no. And I hung it back, and then after a week or two I went and had another look at it, and I thought, oh well, there's a war on. And that was our excuse. Oh, there's a war on. If we'd got to do something that we didn't really want to do, that was our excuse. And so I got the wedding dress out, and I said, I'm sorry, wedding dress, but I've got to cut you. And I put the scissors into it and cut a great big piece out of the wedding dress. And I made a christening gown, which was quite nice. And then when my little girl was 4 years old, nearly 5 years old, she was in a maypole dancing troupe, and she needed a white dress. So I went back to the wedding dress and cut another big chunk off it and made her this little white dress. It was like that with other things, like summer dresses. During the war, the majority of women wore blouses and skirts. You see, a skirt only took about a yard of material if it was 54 inches wide. And if you bought a dress, then you had to pay a lot more coupons for that, you see. So it was mainly skirts and blouses. Sometimes you could cut the top of a summer dress and use that as a top. But the majority of them had knitted jumpers, and the wool was very important. When the war started, I'd got a great big bag full of odd balls of wool, because I'd always been a knitter, and you never sort of throw the odd ball away, you keep it. And so I'd got a great big bag full of wool. Most people had. I looked at it one day and I thought, well, I'm going to knit the children some jumpers. And I got a lot of it out, and I found enough to do the welt and the collar round the neck of one colour, and then all the rest was odd bits of wool. You'd be surprised how wonderful it looked. Everybody used to say, oh, where did you get that lovely jumper? Oh, isn't that nice? And it was only odd bits of wool, and that's how we went on. But now men's shirts during the war and before the war, they were made of linen or cotton. Nylon shirts didn't come in until after the Second World War. They had loose collars. Some shirts had 2 collars and some had 3. Of course, after a time, the collar would begin to fray round the neck. Normally, you'd throw it away, and when the other collar or the other 2 collars had gone, you'd throw the shirt away. But we couldn't do that in the wartime. That shirt had got to be worn until it was threadbare. What I did, I unpicked the collar, took away the facing that had started to go rough or bits of cotton sticking out of it, and I threw that away, and I cut the tail off the shirt and cut facings from the material and was able to reface the collars. And of course then they were like new collars, and he was able to wear those shirts for nearly a couple of years after that. But that's the kind of thing we had to do, with turn-ups on the trousers where they frayed, and of course they frayed where they hit the boot. And so we cut the bottom off the trouser, turned it and sewed it back on again so that the frayed part was inside, the same as the cuffs on the shirts. We took the shirt cuff off, turned it over, and then the frayed part was inside the turn-up. It was amazing, really, what we could do with what we had got and how we made do with other bits and pieces. Now, I had a friend, and one day I was going down to the shops. It was early in the morning, about 9:30, I should think, and I happened to see her coming up. She'd been to the shop, she was coming back towards me, and she was almost dancing, and I could see that she was, very pleased about something. So when she got up to me, I said, "Hello, Muriel, you seem very happy and delighted this morning. What's happened to you?" She said, "I'm on top of the world." She said, she said, "I don't know how to get home quick enough." And I said, "Why, what's happened?" She'd got a cardboard box under her arm, and she pulled it out and she said, "Win, you have a look at these." And she opened it, and it was a box full of cards of mending cotton, and there was a whole box full. And I said, "Have you had those from the shop?" And she said, "Yes, I've had a job to get it." But she said, "I'm so pleased about it." She said, "I went in to get some tape," but she said they hadn't any tape. It was a haberdashery shop. But she said she just put this box of mending cotton on the counter. So I said to her, how wonderful. "I've only just had them in," she said, "and to tell you the truth, I haven't had any for about 3 or 4 months. How many would you like?" She said, and I looked at her and I said, "You wouldn't let me buy them all, would you?" And she said, "I don't know about that. What would you want all those for?" And she said, "Well, if you could see the vest that I've got on at the moment, I feel so ashamed. It's darned and darned and darned until it's nothing but one great big darn. Every time I put it on, I feel terribly ashamed." She said, "And when I saw all those cards of cotton, I thought, how I could make myself a vest with those." I pleaded with her, and eventually she said, "Well, I suppose I've only got to sell them once. Yes, all right, you can have them." She said, "And here I am," she said, "and I can't get home quick enough to start knitting the vest." She said, Win, if you could see this vest I've got on, you'd never believe it." So after about a week or two, I bumped into her again, and I said, "Hello, Muriel," I said, "how's your vest going?" Win, she said, "Wonderful, wonderful." And she put her hand down her neck and pulled up the shoulder strap. She'd made it, she'd go, she said, "I feel as if I'm living in a different world. It's wonderful."